How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Black Metal Rebellion. I'm your host, Jesse Morgan, and today I'm going to be doing the 5 favorite artists and 5 favorite albums tag that was started by Mr. Evilops. I kind of opted to do kind of 5 different genres as well, just so it's not all in the same kind of... Well, it's all metal, but it's in different, subgenres of metal. So these are my 5 favorite bands, 5 favorite albums in 5 different genres. So here we go. The first one is kind of a double, just because it's basically Ozzy, but he was in Black Sabbath as well. So starting off with Black Sabbath, this was probably the thing that got me into metal in the first place for the most part, besides like Deep Purple, Alice Cooper and all that. But this was the first like legit like metal thing that got me into metal, and Black Sabbath's Paranoid with Iron Man, Electric Funeral, Fairies Wear Boots, Paranoid, obviously, War Pigs. This just is jam-packed full of like literally the best stuff by Black Sabbath, minus a couple of tracks that are clearly really good for Massive Reality and their self-titled album and the Sabbath Bloody Sabbath song. But for the most part, this was the album that had the most gems in it, so that's why I picked Paranoid by Black Sabbath. I could throw this on any day of the week and be perfectly satisfied. And the other Ozzy related thing was this. This is Ozzy Osbourne's No More Tears. This was kind of one of the first things I heard by Ozzy Osbourne when I was younger, as well as that Black Sabbath album. My parents, or my mom and her boyfriend, or my dad, whoever I was around, whoever my guardians were, would throw on this. So this Ozzy Osbourne album is kind of what I grew up on as well. Lots of great stuff on this. I Don't Want to Change the World, Mr. Tinker Train, Hellraiser, Sin, Zombie Stomp, AVH, Desire, No More Tears, the self-titled track, Road to Nowhere is great. Even the ballad Mama I'm Coming Home was big when I was growing up. It was very kind of like this angsty teen thing. Time After Time wasn't the greatest track, but other than that, the entire album was something I listened to over and over again. So yeah, my first pick was Ozzy and Sabbath, as I'm counting that as one. Next, as I got older, more teen angst set in, and this shit really kind of just set me in motion. And this kind of industrial gothic kind of just, I don't know, just whatever you want to call it, industrial gothic metal just really did it for me. And this is Marilyn Manson's first full-length album, Portrait of an American Family. Now, when I first got introduced to Marilyn Manson, it was probably around the time that The Beautiful People came out, but once I got into him, this was the album I listened to the most, up until the Golden Age of Grotesque, and then I listened to the Golden Age of Grotesque more. But this one was the first Marilyn Manson album that I played a lot and the most of at the time. So I'm going to consider this my favorite Marilyn Manson album, just because it has like such great songs like Dope Hat, Cake and Sodomy, Get Your Gun, Dogma, Cyclops, My Monkey, Snakes and Sissies, Misery Machine I think was alright, Lunchbox, just a lot of classic shit. And once again, it's just another one of those albums that I could throw on and be perfectly fine with, and not have to change a damn track. So yeah, that's number 2 of my favorite albums and favorite artists of all time. Alright, moving on to slam and kind of slamcore territory, whatever you want to label these guys as, but Acranius. This thing, once again, some of the best shit I've ever heard. When I started listening to slam, this kind of broke the mold a bit, and included some breakdowns, but like the more deathcore breakdowns, not just the general sense of the term breakdown. were any sort of slowed version of a riff, or any sort of riff that sounded like the song is literally breaking down. But yeah, this is pretty much some of the best stuff I've heard in its genre. I could throw this on any time, any day, and just not skip a damn track and still enjoy thoroughly. I love Acranius, especially this and the new Rain, or whatever, the third album that came out. Dishonor was okay, but they really stepped up their game on the third album. But this is what kind of got me into this style of slam or slamcore or whatever you want to call these guys. But yeah, Acranius with the first album, When Mutation Becomes Homicidal, and just that polar bear on the front looks sick as fuck. Now, when I got back into punk after my kind of like post-high school kind of hiatus of not listening to punk for a while, I got back into punk, and this was the band that kind of really got me into the more early hardcore side of punk. Not the modern punk, modern hardcore. Modern hardcore is all the same shit with very little deviation, all this kind of tough guy, like kind of whatever. It just, no, the Germs style of hardcore punk in the 80s was fantastic. Their album GI, which stands for Germs Incognito, amazing. I still eventually want to get their single for Forming, and I still want to get What We Do Is Secret, that EP they released before this. Eventually I'll probably get the kind of box set that comes with everything, and like it comes with like a wristband or whatever. But this is great stuff. If you're into punk at all, and you're like, if you're one of those people that are into punk, and when you say that, you mean stuff like Green Day, Blink-182, MXPX, or if you say stuff like, I don't know, Billy Talent, or Good Charlotte, or Fall Out Boy, or Aiden, or Escape the Fate, and if you actually want to get into some real punk, some stuff that people aren't going to laugh at you for listening to, then try out the Germs. Try to get into like late 90s, early 80s hardcore punk, because that shit's the fucking real McCoy. This shit is the stuff that'll put like hair on your balls and rebellion in your veins, because this was punk to the T. These guys, if you guys ever want to see an amazing documentary too, check out What We Do Is Secret, the Germs documentary / film, biographical film. It's amazing. Like their very first gig was them just kind of using used or potentially stolen instruments, going up on stage, not knowing how to play a damn thing, and just doing it. They went up there, plucked some strings. The drummer just did the simple snare kick, snare kick, snare kick, hi-hat, snare kick, like a really, really basic beat. And Darby Crash, my boy here, he just said random shit into a microphone. And then when they started getting booed off the stage, they ripped open a bag of flour that was near the set to hold up one of the mic stands and just started throwing it at the judges. And then grabbed some random jar of peanut butter and jammed the microphone into it and said fuck you, and then they walked off stage. Like, that is punk. That is punk as fuck. And the Germs, I could throw this on any day and not skip a beat. Love the shit out of this. And to all those who think I'm sniffling because of cocaine, nope, just Coca-Cola. Alright, last one, and some actual black metal, sort of. This band does black metal, but not so much in this album. That's more like black and roll. Anyways, I was gonna go with Immortal for my favorite black metal band and album, which would have been Blizzard Beasts, which you would have seen coming a mile away. since I already did a video kind of about them a while back, doing the Immortal retrospect, but I figured, nah, I'm going to do something a little bit different, and this is it. Satyricon. Now, whether you like Satyricon or not, you may or may not like this album. This is Now Diabolical. This is their black and roll kind of style album, and I love the fuck out of it. Just because, you know, black metal in general kind of went against the grain when it first started out, and kind of just said fuck you to the clean production of death metal. But then, these guys went against the grain of black metal and started doing stuff that was a little more like rhythmic and a little bit more more rock and rolly sounding, and more, I don't want to say mainstream or popular, but this could potentially creep onto the radio if you're a really hard station. And songs like Now Diabolical or King or The Pentagram Burns, you know, stuff like that could potentially sneak onto your radio station if you're heavy. And the fact that Satyricon decided to go that route, decided to, you know, be rebellious on top of already being in a rebellious kind of genre, and said fuck you to the cult following and underground scene, and they're like, you know what, we want to do what we want to do, but we're still going to stick somewhat to the black metal basis, but we're also going to go above and beyond and do our own thing on top of that. So kudos to Satyricon for deciding to say fuck it and throw caution to the wind while being a very well revered black metal band and do this style. Gotta give them a pat on the back, gotta give them kudos for trying, gotta give them, you know, like a thumbs up for being, like, getting brass balls, having brass balls in a scene where most of the people just wanted straightforward dissonant chords, tremolos, cold production, and stuff that the radio would never ever fucking play. And they're like, let's just do what we want to do. So, Satyricon, Now Diabolical, probably my favorite album in their collection. I love this style. The Age of Nero was good. I need to get that album. And the stuff before this, Volcano, was also really good. I also need to get that album, but yeah. Some really, really great stuff. So that's it. That's my 5 favorite albums by my 5 favorite artists, and 5 mostly different genres, because I don't think you'd classify Ozzy and Sabbath in the same metal genre as Manson. So I'd say they're pretty far apart enough to say there's different genres. And yeah, let me know what you thought. Thanks to Mr. Evilops for tagging me in this video idea. Go check out his channel. Dude's got up to like 5,000 subscribers now. I remember when the dude maybe had about 100 or 200 and he just was shot straight up. So congrats to him for doing that. And that's it. For Glory, for the Rebellion, Slimerella out.